It's time for Atomic Monsoon with your hosts, Psycho Andy.
And the internet went,
Josh.
That opens up a lot of possibilities in the future. You just got me excited here.
And Jedi Stephanie.
They get like a staff, and they try to bring him back with it, and they only bring back his lower half.
And now, it's Atomic Monsoon.
You know, Andy, I've always considered going back to Jakku. I think I've left something behind there after my last visit.
I have to go back there because I'm waiting for some people that may or may not ever show up.
And you know what? It's probably best just to never go back to Jakku.
Yeah, that's probably true. It just seems like a giant desert planet. There's no green. There's no green. Just people that give you not enough portions, whatever that is.
That's how much food.
Is it food? Okay.
It's food.
Yeah, people who don't exchange food for garbage very well. Although, really, yeah, let's not go back to Jakku.
Nah. Finn was right.
You never need to go back to Jakku.
Well, hey guys, welcome to Atomic Monsoon, not Jakku.
Yeah, Atomic Jakku would be a terrible show.
Terrible. That's actually how they describe the Battle of Jakku in the Battlefront 2 video game. They described it as Atomic Jakku.
Atomic Jakku. Might
they
just
didn't
be
say
the
that.
episode title now.
Excellent.
Hey, so in case you can't tell from all of our stupid jokes about Jakku, we want to thank our friends at Def M Records for doing our intro.
Come right out of left field with that.
That moment where you realize you have to thank your friends for giving you music in the middle of your segue into what we're talking about. I had this thought. The Star Wars prequel series is over. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, obviously that's been over for almost 20 years. The Star Wars sequel series is over.
God, don't tell me that.
Episodes 7, 8, and 9.
God, don't tell me it's already almost been 20 years for most of those films.
Yeah.
Breaking down.
Phantom Menace is 1999, man. That we almost didn't get the rest of them because of Y2K.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought, okay, they've all been out. The episode 9 came out last holiday
year.
season. Yeah, and so they're all on Disney Plus now. And I thought, I have some thoughts and opinions on the movies, but I only saw each of them once. I saw episode 7 twice in theaters, but I only saw 8 and 9 each one time. And I thought, I should probably rewatch those. But if I'm going to rewatch them, I mean, Stephanie likes Star Wars. She probably wants to talk about that a lot.
Always.
So I thought, hey, let's both rewatch them and talk about them for about an hour and record our thoughts. So here we are. We are going to spoil the hell out of these movies. So if you have not seen Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, or Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, and you care about not having plot details or twists or anything spoiled for you, stop listening now. Go subscribe to Disney Plus. It's 3 movies. I did them one a day for 3 days. It wasn't that hard. And they're a little over 2 hours each. They're all in that like 130 to 145 minute range, so less than 2.5 hours. Go watch them. And if you don't have a good internet service, I don't know, go brave the elements and go to Walmart or Target or somewhere. Any of your local video retailers, because it's Star Wars. It's not going to be hard to find these. Yep. So, anyways, we're going to spoil a lot of stuff. So we're just going to assume everyone listening has seen these or doesn't care about spoilers.
Yep.
Yeah. There is your warning.
There's your warning right there.
There it is. All right. So, I didn't do any research other than watching these movies.
I watched the movies and then I watched Resistance as well. But that's just because I'm a big nerd.
Right. And Resistance that's the CGI cartoon that looks like Voltron that we talked about on an early episode of Atomic Monsoon, right?
Yes, and that's the series that takes place just before and during the sequel series.
Okay, cool. I have not watched any of that because I didn't realize that that's when it took place. Yep. So
understandable.
Yeah. So I guess we should start at the beginning, and the beginning is part 7.
Yes. The Force Awakens.
Force Awakens. So Force Awakens came out in what,
2015?
15. Jeez. That's a long time ago already.
It's already been 5 years, dude. It's crazy.
Man. Okay. And that was the first movie in like 10 years, right? I mean, I guess there was the Clone Wars, like, 4 episodes mashed together into a movie. Yeah. But the first one's episode 3.
Yeah, episode 3 came out in May 21st, 25th, one of those days, somewhere in that week of May in 2005. Okay. 3 years later was the Clone Wars movie, followed by its series. Right. Rebels was already out, but hadn't gotten to their 3rd or 4th season yet. And so, yeah, this was the first full-length feature live-action film in 10 years. Okay.
And I mean, for the most part, this is a new era in Star Wars, right? A bunch of characters do return throughout these sequels series.
Yes.
But it is, the next generation of Star Wars characters, which, that's cool.
Yeah, it's been 30 years since the events of Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. And just to kind of give long story short, the Empire's gone. The New Republic has been built. And there were some people who believe that the New Republic is flawed and wrong, and secretly started building what is known as the First Order, which the New Republic thought was nothing more than just a group of, they didn't think nothing much of them. They thought they weren't much of a threat. And then the events of Episode 7 happened. Yeah. And everyone learned that the First Order is actually not good.
Yeah. It turns out.
Yeah, but there's the Resistance who's been against the First Order from the beginning. That just the New Republic won't listen.
Right. So man, yeah. So the movie, where does it even open? I didn't.
So the movie,
does it open with the scene in the village?
Yes, it starts with we get obviously the usual Star Wars space shot with spaceships. Right. But after that, it starts on a small village on the planet of Jakku, with this older gentleman. Why am I forgetting his name? But he's talking with Poe Dameron about the map that leads to Luke Skywalker. And then BB-8 runs in like, the First Order's here.
Except in a little bit more bleepy bloopy way.
Yes.
She's a robot.
She's an adorable little robot.
Yeah. And then the First Order appears in the form of Kylo Ren and some new First Order stormtroopers. And a battle ensues with a bunch of lasers and blasters being shot all over the place. And one of the clone troopers gets shot and goes to reach for one of his stormtrooper buddies. Did I say clone trooper?
You did say clone trooper. There is a difference.
There is a difference, and I know that. You know what it is we're recording this on September 25th, and Hasbro is having their PulseCon right now, so it's all of what they would have been announcing in the panels they would have had at San Diego Comic-Con, and I just finished watching all the Star Wars stuff, and so they were talking about clone troopers and snow troopers and stormtroopers and all of the different troopers and all the new toys that are coming out in the next 12 months. Including some ridiculous looking holiday themed ones that'll be coming out. It's like there's like 5 figures, but each one's coming out to a different retailer.
Interesting.
In time for Christmas. So yeah. So I may I know that they're all stormtroopers. I may misspeak. I apologize. Anyway, so one of the stormtroopers goes to reach for his clone trooper buddy's helmet and leaves a big bloody mark on his face so that we know which one this is. And this one is having obvious second thoughts about massacring innocent people. And
the thing with that is that the First Order, we learn this later with Phasma, who's the beautiful, shiny stormtrooper.
Dude, so cool looking.
I love her armor so much. But we learn with her later that we actually just learn it in general throughout all of these 3 movies that the stormtroopers were taken from their homes as children, and they were conditioned to be these mindless slaves to the First Order.
Right.
And that this was and that Finn, or FN 2187, this is his first moment of just suddenly breaking the mold and coming out of that reconditioned mindset and going, what the hell are we doing here? This is wrong.
Well, and I could be
So
wrong, but I feel like it's like his first mission too. Like
yeah,
it's all been training up until
yeah.
now.
He went from working in the in I think the the maintenance or cleaning crew. I can't remember what he tells Han later.
He was either janitor or sanitation or something.
Sanitation crew, that's what it was. But he went from being sanitation crew to suddenly being on the front lines, and it's just like that's a big jump.
Yeah.
So
yeah. We don't need to recap the entire events of the movie, but
yeah.
So we go from there, and then he's clearly having second doubts, and Captain Phasma comes up and is like, "What are you doing?" And then we cut over to another part of Jakku where this teenage young lady, adult, I don't know,
she's like 19.
Yeah, okay, is stealing parts and trying to sell them or scavenging parts from spaceships and trying to sell them for food. And it's Rey, and she runs into BB-8, who Poe had given basically like a flash drive, right, with the map to Luke Skywalker. So she's like, okay, well, we need to stay here and blah blah blah. Meanwhile, FN 127 FN 12187.
There you go.
I know it's 2187. Saying them out, it's 4 numbers.
Yes.
Anyways, this rebellious stormtrooper meets Poe Dameron, and they break each other out of there, and then they try and escape in a TIE fighter, right? Or no, it's not a TIE fighter, is it?
Yeah, no, it's a TIE fighter. They try to escape in a TIE fighter. It's the First Order era TIE fighter.
Okay, right, because everything got redesigned because it's 30 years later, and why would you still be using the same vehicles after 30 years?
Yeah. It got redesigned where you can actually have a second person in there with you while one person flies, the other person shoots. That was not the case in the original TIE fighters.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just figure, new models of cars come out every year. Why wouldn't there be new models of spaceships after 30, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So they escape and then crash on Jakku, and then Poe's gone. Poe's just dead. The end. Game over. We'll never see you again. That's it. And while they're flying, Poe renames FN 2187. It's just like, I'm just gonna call you Finn. And it's like, all right, well that's his name from now on.
Yep.
This is FN Finn. Great.
Yep.
Sure.
That works.
So Finn takes his jacket, and then he ends up in the same village with Rey and BB-8, and BB-8's like, that's my friend's coat. You stole my friend's coat. And the adventures begin, and it's Rey and Finn against the First Order.
Pretty much, it's a race to get BB-8 to the Ilenium system. And I think there's some moments here that I just want to point out real quick that we've just kind of glossed over that are just fantastic, and just that makes this movie so good. One moment is when Poe shoots at Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren just stops everything. Just proving how crazy powerful the Force can be, and that just kind of leaves Poe shook. Also, the fact that Unkar Plot, who's the 1/4 portion guy, who says that to Rey, that is actually that is Simon Pegg.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes. So he is officially been in a Star Trek movie and a Star Wars movie.
Ha! Good for him.
And then the part where they're running away from the First Order on Jakku, and they point out the fact that they're going to take the quad jumper, and that the other ship is garbage, and then the garbage will do, and it's the Falcon.
Right. The Millennium Falcon.
You get the beautiful Falcon theme in the background.
Yeah.
So, but just wanted to point those out real quick because they're just fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. Right. So they get on the Millennium Falcon, and then so this is one of those things. And Star Wars is certainly very guilty of it, but it's not just Star Wars. It's any large franchise thing, right? So they get on the Millennium Falcon and they go and take off, right? And immediately they run into Han Solo and Chewbacca. Like, what are the chances that of all of the places in the galaxy that they could have been, what are the chances that Finn and Rey would jump, they would just run right into Han and Chewie? Like, that is just there's a lot of strange coincidences for the convenience of plot.
Yeah.
And it's fine. Like, it's fine. It's not a big deal. But it is just kind of like a, man.
What are the odds?
Like, what are the odds that, you're running away from a shooting outside your house and you jump in a car that happens to have the keys in it and you drive away, and the first person you run into is the guy that used to own that car 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Like,
and the thing is, yeah, no, it's a crazy coincidence, and I know they were trying to find a way to bring Han and Chewie into it,
sure.
And honestly, I know it's a strange coincidence. I know the odds are completely just out there.
Yeah.
But I will take this as it is and just say the pure reaction of the theater.
Oh yeah.
As they run up the ramp and say, "Chewie, we're home."
Yeah.
Like, there were tears in eyes, there was wooting and cheering. It was just like it was just beautiful, nostalgic, perfect, amazing moment.
And,
but
like, I'm not saying that it's bad.
Oh yeah,
right?
no.
It's just like there are some things in large, like Marvel does it too, right? DC does it in the comics and stuff. Like, this isn't exclusive to Star Wars at all. It is just there are a lot of weird coincidences where, like, suddenly this person's like, everything becomes kind of incestuous, right? Everyone's related to each other. Everything, happens to be like, well, it doesn't matter how far apart we are. We always keep running into the same people. Like, go on vacation. What are the chances you're going to run into someone you know?
Yeah.
Right?
Like, seriously though, yeah.
It can't. Saved by the Bell, right? Saved by the Bell, the Hawaiian vacation episode where they spend a summer. It's like a 5-episode series where the kids all go to Kelly's grandfather's hotel in Hawaii. And when they land, the exact same time that they land, Mr. Belding, their principal, is running a tour. Like, he's a tour guide on the Hawaiian Islands. Why is he there? Because it's in his contract to be in every episode.
Yes.
Right? Like, there's no reason for Belding to be in that in that series of episodes whatsoever, except, well, Dennis Haskins has to be in every episode, right?
Yeah.
So, what are the chances that they run into Han and Chewie? Well, pretty good, because they're in a Star Wars movie.
Exactly. And at the same time, I mean, according to what Han and Chewie were saying, that they just came back from collecting Rathtars and were on their way to deliver it to some king, and just happened to run across the Millennium Falcon.
Right.
In a ship that looks like it, apparently, according to Finn, belongs to the First Order. So it's like...
Yeah.
There's just a lot of... It's even though it is a big coincidence moment, it's such a great coincidence moment.
And it's fine.
So,
so they go running all over the place, and some gangsters show up to get money from Han, and blah blah blah.
Oh, that's the Conjure Club. Sorry, just great line.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I'm blanking. I watched these 3 movies in the span of the last 3 days, so
you're fine. I got it from here.
A little bit of a jumbles, but yeah.
So they board the ship with Han and Chewie. The Guavian Death Game, the Conjure Club guys show up. Rathtars get loose. They run away on the Falcon, and they head to Takodana, where Maz Kanata is located. Yes, I have all these details listed. Yeah. And they meet Maz and talk to her about the droid and Leia and Rey and the mysterious appearance of Luke's old lightsaber that we believed was still on Bespin. And
now, okay, so that lightsaber, that's the one from Empire Strikes Back, right?
Yes.
When he and Vader are fighting on the bridge balcony kind of thing, and we find out
that is Anakin's. Yeah, that's Anakin's lightsaber that got passed down to Luke that we thought was gone for good in Episode 5.
Okay, and we don't ever actually find out how Maz Kanata has collected that, right? It's just suddenly in her possession. Okay.
It's just suddenly in her possession. I mean, based off the fact that Maz has lived for a really long time and she has seen so much, I wouldn't be surprised if she just stumbled across it in a black market because someone found it on Bespin and sold it to her.
This isn't me judging anything or saying that it's bad. It's just I wasn't sure if there was some backstory that some extracurricular backstory somewhere.
We got nothing.
Okay, fair enough.
At least that I can find. So they talk to Maz, and while they're talking to Maz, Finn's like, "Yo, Rey, I'm actually not with the Resistance. I'm actually a former stormtrooper that's trying to get away from the First Order." And as everyone kind of goes their separate ways, the First Order shows up because there's some First Order spies in the bar that warn them. And we get this pretty damn epic battle on Takodana between Chewie, Han, Finn, and a bunch of stormtroopers as the Resistance cruises over on the water beautifully and joins into the fight. Which, to quote my husband, Connor, he said that the space battles in the sequel trilogy are glorious, like, seamless, beautiful pieces of art compared to the original and the prequel trilogy.
It's really true.
It's just gorgeous flying.
I have some issues with some of the things that happen, plot details throughout the sequel trilogy, especially in episodes 8 and 9. But I will say, like, before we get to any of that, these movies are gorgeous. Like, Disney obviously spared no expense, making them the best that they were able to do at the time with the amount of time that they had to make the movies, because, they set release dates before they started filming anything.
Yeah.
And we can have a conversation about the merits of that at some other point. I always think that that's a big mistake. I think you should make a thing first and then set a release date for it. But whatever.
Yeah.
This is the way that Hollywood works. Is they're like, we're putting out a movie this day and we're going to do the best we can until we get there. Okay, sure. Man, like, not every bit of these movies may be like you may not personally enjoy some of the visual effects or some of the score choices or whatever, but like none of them are bad.
No.
Right? Like, these movies are just friggin' beautiful to look at, and it's a ton of very talented artists worked on the sets and the CGI and whatever.
And the one thing with the sequel trilogy that the prequel trilogy kind of threw away, but that was just because different time, different era of CGI, because CGI was becoming a big thing when the prequels were coming out, so they used all of it. They used as much CGI as they could. They practically invented it in a weird way. Not saying that they actually did. There was someone else who did, but they took it to new levels. The sequel trilogy was pretty much practical effects with some CGI.
Yeah, it was practical effects as much as was feasible to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And, John Williams is always a win with his musical scores. So
yeah.
Just name one bad musical score by John Williams.
I can't.
There you go.
But I will say that his stuff is a little samey, right? But also that's how it's John Williams, right?
Yes.
One of my favorite bands is Motorhead, and a lot of people have said, Motorhead only has one song. And I'm like, yeah, but I really like that song.
Yeah.
And John Williams is kind of the same way. Like, you listen to Star Wars and Superman and Indiana Jones, it's like, yeah, they're all kind of the same, but they're all really good.
Yes.
So
yes, they are.
Like, I can't fault him for repeating success.
But but I definitely agree though that the sequel trilogy is definitely very visually appealing. And just it looks good, it feels good, and just like a sense of like cinema. If we're talking strictly effects and art and makeup and costumes and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, and I think all the actors did the best they could with what they were given. Like any issues that I have with these movies are purely based on story.
Yeah, I understand that. So, speaking of story,
we're gonna need to go faster than we're going, because we're already like halfway through the episode and we haven't even gotten through the first movie.
So just gonna real quickly fly through the rest of the movie here. So Resistance shows up. Rey gets captured by Kylo because he thinks that he realizes with the Force that she has seen the map, so he thinks that she's going to tell him where Luke Skywalker is.
Right.
And it leads the crew to going back to the Resistance and figuring out a plan to go to Starkiller Base, which is their new super weapon on a planet that's probably, I want to say, about the size of Pluto.
Okay.
Like it's not like Earth, or it's not like a huge, massive like Saturn, Jupiter size, or even Earth size, but it's like it's bigger than the Death Star.
Right. Yeah. I was gonna say, like, the thing about sci-fi and scale is that it's all arbitrary.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, think about Men in Black, right? Where like Tommy Lee Jones is wielding these giant, rifle like sci-fi rifles, and then he hands Will Smith the noisy cricket, which is a very tiny thing that is the thing that packs the most punch, right?
Yes.
So the Starkiller Base could be the size of Pluto, it could be the size of Jupiter. It really doesn't matter. The fact is that it has a cannon that's more powerful than the Death Star.
because it takes the power of a sun and can blast more planets than the Death Star ever could.
Yeah.
So, and it also destroys the New Republic, which is not good.
No, no, it's really not.
No.
So this is the first while Rey is captured, this is the first time that she realizes that she is Force sensitive, right?
Yeah, because Kylo kind of opens up the door to her saying, "You're strong in the Force. I could train you to be so much more." And she's like, the Force taps into it and goes, "Oh, no, really? Okay, cool." And then he starts using it.
Yeah. So, man, kind of one of those, look what, like, none of this would have been a problem if he had just left her alone.
Yeah.
He probably would have won, actually, if not for this one terrible mistake that he made.
I mean, let's look at all the other Star Wars movie for a second. Palpatine and Sidious and Maul probably would have won the deal with Naboo if Anakin hadn't gotten involved in Episode 1. Vader and the Emperor probably would have won with using the Death Star on the Rebellion if Luke hadn't gotten involved. I think the one thing with Star Wars is never underestimate anybody, because the moment they're involved, it can screw everything up.
Really true. Yeah. I mean, that's a very good point. Yeah, man. And is that it is like from here it's everyone kind of gets together and there's big fights and
yeah, we have Han, Chewie, and Finn going to rescue Rey. We have Poe leading the attack against Starkiller Base. We have the lightsaber duel between Finn, Rey, and Kylo.
Yeah.
We also have the death of Han Solo that happens that I visibly sobbed over.
Oh no.
Like no, it was like no, don't, no, and then it happened, and then I was crying and it was sad.
Oh no. Yeah, man. Okay, the lightsaber battle in the snow. That is my favorite scene out of any Star Wars anything.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm gonna break our family friendly rating here. Listen, Episode 7 is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it's really cool. There's a cool action scene like every 10 to 15 minutes. There's, we're introduced to all of these new characters. We get enough time with all of our old characters. You and I just now didn't even talk about Leia being there and finding out that Kylo is the son of Han and Leia, right?
Yeah.
And that's a whole thread through the movie.
Yeah.
Right, and that's Kylo's inspiration, is that because he's the son of Leia, that means he's the grandson of Darth Vader, and so he's inspired by his grandfather.
Yes,
like this whole thing is just like, man, they did a really good job of taking the next generation who are looking back at what some of them, are looking back at what the others did and being like, oh, cool, what came before is inspiring us to do our own thing.
Yeah.
But man, yeah, when it comes to that lightsaber fight between Finn and Kylo, like, okay, yeah, Finn wasn't going to win that fight at all. But, like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And then when Rey comes in and, like, Rey has never used the Force before about 10 minutes ago.
But she knows how to fight with a stick.
But she knows how to fight with a stick. And then she's using a lightsaber and she's battling this guy who's been trained in it his entire life, basically. And
he also has this huge wound in his side from Chewbacca's bowcaster.
That's right. Yeah. Like, people decry Episode 7 as like, oh, it's just the first one over again. It's like, I mean, there's moments, right? Like, it is a farm kid on a desert who is the chosen one.
Yeah.
But, like, that's kind of it. Like, if anything, it's kind of Star Wars Greatest Hits, right? Because you also get the scene with a father-son relationship and seeming murder on a bridge in space.
Yep.
You get, there's something from there's a fight in the woods, like in Return of the Jedi, right? Like, it's a lot of hallmarks to the original trilogy, but I also feel like Lucasfilm and Disney had to do that because they needed to be like, okay, we saw what the fan reaction to the prequels were, which was overall negative. And so we need to show everyone, listen, we understand your problems with what came before, and we're here to show you, like, look, this is really going to be Star Wars this time.
And here's the other thing, too, is that they also had all of the Legends expanded lore that existed beforehand that they had, that was, obviously trashed and thrown away, but they still had to call some type of, like, reference back to. So I'll throw this out here really, really quickly. Han and Leia in the original expanded universe had 3 kids. They got rid of 3 kids except for one.
And changed who it was, right?
Yes, because originally the 3 kids were Jason, Gina, and Anakin Solo.
Right.
Jason Solo turned to the dark side, became a Sith, caused havoc and stuff everywhere, resulting in the death of Mara Jade, Anakin, Solo, and Chewbacca. Because Chewbacca was originally dead around this point, and Ben was actually the name of Luke's son. His name was Ben Skywalker.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's things they called back to and they changed, but
yeah. So again, right, like, you know, the prequels had some issues, and so, you know, episode 7 was very much like, let's fix that. Let's try and get people back on our side. And like,
plus it's also 30 years later. These are different characters. It's a completely different environment from being a posh republic where the Jedi Order is kind of there to be peacekeepers, or the Empire ruled galaxy that we see in the original trilogy. This is completely different.
Right. I guess the Starkiller base as a Death Star analog is sort of another, but again, it's a Star Wars greatest hits, not a retread of the first movie.
Exactly. And then,
you know, every time a band puts out anytime a good band puts out a greatest hits album, they always add a couple new tracks too. So,
exactly.
Like, okay.
I could definitely agree. Episode 7 is fantastic. It's got a lot of great one-liners and quotes. I still to this day say that's not how the Force works. To things that have nothing to do with the actual Force.
Right.
But
because that's a line from the movie. It's not you saying, no, this isn't how the Force works, episode 7. It's you're quoting them saying this is how the Force works.
Episode 7 is very, very good. I very much enjoy it. And it leaves a lot to be desired, and it leaves a lot on the table of just kind of like, it is.
Nothing to be desired. Like, it's just great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, not desired from it, desired from what Disney will do with Star Wars.
Yeah. Like, I was all set. Both times I saw it, I was all set to be like, you know what? Yeah, these are going to be my Star Wars movies. Like, I know that there's you know, all my friends like the original ones. I know there's kids growing up with the prequels.
I was Clone Wars.
But I am all set. I am all set to be like, yeah, these are going to be my movies.
Yeah.
And then episode
technically
8
they're my movies too, because I grew up too late after the prequels in the sense of like Star Wars had the Clone Wars. So these are my ones that I get to see in theaters and experience as a Star Wars fan.
Yep.
So.
And then The Last Jedi happened. And we are going to have to just fly.
Let's throw some quick synopsises out about Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker real quick, and then we can do a little bit more of a deep dive.
Sure.
So real quick, Last Jedi takes place immediately after the events of Episode 7, which is the first time a Star Wars movie's ever done that, by the way. Normally, there's usually about a year or two or more gap, but this was like an hour.
Like real fast, yeah.
So the Resistance is on the run from the First Order, who shows up and pretty much destroys their base on Dakar, which is the planet they were hiding on. Rey is with Luke on the planet of Octu, which is technically the Skellig Michael Islands in Ireland. I know that because I visited them.
Yeah.
And she's pretty much training with Luke after much convincing of the fact that the galaxy needs help, even if it's not him. Just train her to be the one to help them.
Sure.
And it pretty much just comes down to the fact that the Resistance is literally on its hind legs with what little supplies, energy, power, fuel they have left, trying to get away from the First Order. That it gets to the point where people just stop trusting each other. People start making bonehead mistakes. It's a desperate situation that starts happening. I mean, I know everyone has the complaint about, you know, the Holdo Poe thing, but I mean, talk to anybody in a military rank, and if you were a commander and you were talking to an admiral that way, the admiral's not going to give you your answers, even if you are a commander.
No.
Or a lowly enlisted man. You're not going to get those answers.
That's very, especially right after you've been demoted.
Exactly.
Like was.
By Space Mom.
So here's my issue with that. Isn't, like, you're right in a military situation, right? That's correct.
Yes.
But also, Poe isn't like they know Poe. Poe's been around, right?
Yeah.
Poe's part of the Resistance. He's been part of the Resistance for a while. So they know he's prone to being an idiot.
Yeah, because he's a hero with a chip on his shoulder. He's not a leader with a hero mentality.
Right. Poe's a hero because Poe wants to be a hero. is what I got out of episode 8.
Yes.
And if they had just said, Poe, we have a plan and we can't tell you what it is, so shut up and trust us, rather than this, do you even have a plan? We have hope. Like, okay, like,
yeah,
the entirety of this movie could have been fixed by Laura Dern saying like 2 sentences to Poe Dameron.
Yeah.
Right.
I can definitely agree with that in that sense. One thing with Holdo though, and I know this is for anybody who's actually read the novel.
Okay.
There's a novelization called it's just called Leia.
Okay.
I think Princess of Alderaan. And it talks about a young Leia Organa growing up during the time of the Empire and how she participates in this like young counselor senator's training or whatever. And Holdo is one of the kids she's training with.
Oh, cool.
And to give anyone perspective and see if this helps fix your opinion of Holdo, Holdo is the Luna Lovegood of the Star Wars universe. Based off that novel and everything that she does. She changes her hair color based off her personality and her mood. So it's very much, she's very much a very quirky character, and her making the decision she's making is very calculating and very like, oh, she's got a plan, and if there is really a spy on board, she's being really smart about it.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I didn't consider. Do people have a problem with Holdo? Is that
some people do? Some people actually do have a problem with Holdo, and I actually really enjoyed her. But then when I read the book, I love her more.
Yeah. I kind of hate Poe Dameron in that movie. Like every decision he makes is wrong. It's like
but you have to learn. You have to make mistakes to learn from them to become a better leader. So
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, my other thing with episode 8 is like there's some exciting parts at the beginning, and then there's like one action scene in the middle of the movie, and then they save all of the rest of it for like the last half hour. And
but that Battle of Crate is just
it's really cool. It's really cool. It kind of makes up. It almost makes up for the rest of the movie being really boring. But like, I almost fell asleep in the middle of the day while eating lunch watching that movie. So yeah, if we're gonna compare the original to this, let's compare real quick, just a little thing. Empire was kind of the same way. It's true.
Kind of.
Yeah.
They kind of mirrored it just a little bit with the fact that there was some action sequence in the beginning, and then we have all this like this training montage and building of suspense and kind of slow-paced moment, and then we get the big battle at the end. Which of course in episode 5 was the battle between Luke and Vader, and the big surprise of, oh, look, I'm your father. In this, it was literally the Resistance trying to survive their final breaths, and then the amazing stuff happens.
Yeah.
So
the other big complaint I have with episode 8 is like Finn is absolutely it's the Finn and Rey show for episode 7, and I was all set to get behind Finn and be like, yeah, this is my guy, right? And then he just doesn't do anything. Like, he's asleep. He shows up for about 2 minutes in the first 40 minutes of that movie.
Yes.
Like way to just erase a character right out of the franchise, guys. Like, he just does not matter. And then he goes on a dumb side quest and sucks at it. And like,
I'm gonna really quickly quote the Cinema Wins guy. If you guys ever watch Cinema Wins, he does the Everything Great About videos.
Sure.
And I was watching those as well to kind of remember what he had said, because I didn't know how deep of a dive we were doing here.
Sure.
But he said something along the vein of episode 8 is very much along the veins of this. At the very beginning of the movie, Poe is a hero who believes, in dumb tactics and, taking heavy risks instead of taking the step back and visualizing his situation to make the right decision. And as the movie goes on, he learns to become a leader. He learns what the right decision is. He learns what it means to actually be a leader and not a hero. Finn, on the other hand, he was, it was all about where's Rey, where is she? His concern was only for her because that's the only person he really knew, even beside Poe and BB-8.
Right.
And his journey with Rose taught him it's not just about Rey or avoiding the First Order. This is what's happening to the galaxy. This is what it means to fight for the Resistance. And that's why, at least I think the Canto Bight scene is important, because it has nothing to do with, okay, we're looking for a decoder. It's literally about the fact of showing Finn this is what is happening to the galaxy.
Yeah.
This is what's happening to those in poverty. This is what's happening to those that are against the First Order, everything like that. This is why we fight as a resistance. That's why he tries to make the sacrifice later during the big battle against the giant door opening cannon.
Yeah.
That I'm drawing a blank on what the actual name of it was.
Battering ram laser or something.
That's what it was, right? Yeah. Either way, but
yeah, okay, so you're right.
Yeah.
Those that is what that is definitely what Rian Johnson was trying, because I checked and Rian Johnson wrote and directed this movie.
Yes.
So that is definitely what he was trying to get across. And I don't think it worked because I didn't pick up on either of those.
I guess, yeah.
You know, if the audience, if I have to watch a movie more than once to get the thing you were going for, then you didn't do it right. And I mean, I'm sorry that, you know, I have to talk about a Star Wars movie that way, but like, yeah.
I think for me, and this is something that I've kind of, I stand alone on my island here when I say this.
Sure.
But I very much appreciated everything that happened in Episode 8. I very much love the things that happened. I understand the decisions made in the background, but also on screen by characters, and you know, there's still great moments. Like there's great humorous moments. There's great character developing moments, and I think the thing that we should like let our audience know is that we're not arguing what's better and what's great about it. We're just literally saying that, you know,
we're talking and giving our opinions, and I don't mean to yuck on anyone's yum, right? If you love Episode 8, please, by all means, continue to love Episode 8.
Please don't stop loving Episode 8.
No, and if you don't like Episode 8, please do not use the couple of things that I don't like about it as your justification to keep hating it. Like, come up with your own damn opinions. Don't let someone else define the way you think about something.
Yeah. One of the things, again, from the Cinnamon Winds guy that I heard when watching the Episode 8 one that I very much take to heart, it's a lot more fun to enjoy things than hate and bash things.
Yeah.
And even if you have, and there's also a difference between criticism and hate.
Yes.
And you obviously have criticisms toward Episode 8, but it doesn't mean that you fully despise the film. Like, you know.
Listen, if I really hated it, I wouldn't have wanted to watch it again and do this episode.
Exactly.
Like, that's really all it comes down to. Like, I don't, you know, and as I've said before, like, I'm a very casual Star Wars fan. I've seen the movies. I've seen a few episodes of some of the other stuff here and there. I want to like Star Wars more than I do, but there is some stuff that goes on in that franchise that, like, I'm just not, it just doesn't catch me, you know? And I don't think it's bad, you know? And also, I know I have terrible taste because I watch professional wrestling and I'm in my 30s and I still watch Transformers and Thundercats. So, like, these are just the opinions of a couple of people. And it's okay to have differing opinions than other people.
Yeah. So
it's not okay to be an asshole about it. But, you know, it's okay to like or not like something.
Yeah. So
okay, so we have 10 minutes and we got to go through all of Episode 9 still.
All right. So there's a lot that happens in Episode 9. I mean, Palpatine returns.
Yeah,
the
out
Resistance.
Of nowhere.
Yeah, I have a thing with that. I'll tell you in a second.
Okay.
The Palpatine returns. The Resistance is now trying to recover from what happened. I think they said a year ago in the Resistance Reborn book. So it was a year now since that happened.
Okay, that makes
sense. The
events
events of Episode 8.
Yeah. Finn has noticeably longer hair. So
yeah.
And
Rey's definitely practiced more in the Force, so she's definitely stronger.
Yeah.
And it pretty much comes down to them trying to find a wayfinder that will take them to the planet of Exegol, where Palpatine is building the final order so they can take him down. And along the way, you know, they visit, you know, the Death Star 2 that's still, you know, crashed on the nearby moons of Endor. They find a Sith knife, or Sith dagger that has Sith writing on it, and have to go on the adventure of decoding that with 3PO. And we have the continuation between Rey and Kylo's ability to connect with each other through the Force, and have a really epic lightsaber duel with that too.
Yeah, so they are dyad. Is that the phrase they used?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Man, so that scene where they're on the planet with the village with the guy that's reprogramming 3PO.
Babu Frick.
Yes. No, I'm sorry. It was the scene before that. It's one of the scenes where Kylo grabs the necklace off of her chest.
That's when they're on the desert world where they're having the 42-year party.
Right. Okay. So
or the party every 42 years.
So that builds off a scene in episode 8, right, where they're talking while she's training on Luke's planet, and his hand is wet because he touched her in whatever this weird force spiritual connection they have.
Yes.
That's a fascinating. One of the things I do like about these movies is that they do some fun things with the force that have, to my knowledge, never been done before. They may have been done in comics or novels or something. I don't know.
There's definitely allusion to the Jedi having bonds, like force bonds that allow them to communicate with each other through the force. But usually it's always kind of been like as if talking to someone through a Bluetooth earpiece almost.
Right. It's like telekinesis or whatever.
It's like telekinesis.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is next level.
Yeah.
This is next level to anything I've seen or read.
And it's cool that even after 43 years of Star Wars, 42, whatever, 40 something years of Star Wars, like they were still able to come up with new ways to use the force.
The force is always expanding, it's always vast, and it can do many, many things. You have to just tap into the right power. You have to just tap into it the right way, I guess.
Yeah. And even the battle with Luke and Kylo at the end of episode 8, like Luke's there. Luke's very much there, but also he doesn't make any footprints in the salt. I never noticed before, and I know we're talking about episode 9, but I missed this point earlier. Luke isn't the same Luke in the Luke that shows up in that last battle is flashback Luke. It's not old man Luke with the long hair.
It's the Luke that shows up is what Luke looked like when he actually left, when he disappeared. This is how everybody remembers him looking like.
Yeah.
So
and I didn't realize that in the theaters, but when I watched it again the other day, like I was like, oh, that's a really good touch. That's like that's interesting, and they're similar enough that I just did not catch it when I saw it in the theater. But when I was watching it, I was like, oh wait, where's his mullet?
Yep, where's his mullet? Where's his facial hair? Where's
yeah.
So
and then it cuts to him on his planet. It's like, oh,
force projection.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. So so there are some clues there that I just I was so overwhelmed by how much was happening in the movie that I missed a couple of things that weren't vocalized. So
speaking of force powers and things that were called back to, this is actually in episode 9.
Okay.
This is after the amazing handoff of the lightsaber, which, by the way, that is my favorite moment in the sequel series, is Rey putting the saber behind her back and then Kylo pulling it out and doing the Han Solo shrug before taking down the
It is the Han Solo shrug. I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
But it was just like, it's after that point, it's where the two of them are standing there to go against Palpatine, and he starts sucking the life force out of them with the Force. That is a callback to Revenge of the Sith. That is what happened to Padme. That's why the droids on Polis Massa could not explain why she was dying. It was because Palpatine was literally pulling her life force from her and giving it to Anakin so he could survive as Vader, because he was not going to.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So they confirmed a fan theory that I've kind of been on board with since like 2007. That I pretty much have known about, but still have not had confirmation of. And they proved it with that moment that he can take the life force from someone. So. Yeah.
Man, we're down to just the last few minutes here.
There's like, to let everyone know, there is so much we have not covered. We haven't covered Luke's character arc. We haven't covered the character arcs of the new people. We haven't covered the relationships and there's so much in the sequel trilogy to digest. And I think we just wanted to talk about the sequel trilogy as a whole, just because
it's new.
There is a lot of negative publicity around it, but I very much love them and enjoy them. And obviously it sounds like you very much enjoyed them. So,
I did. Again, episode 7's fucking awesome. Like, I was so hyped. I was so hyped for all these new Star Wars movies when that came out. And that was the thing leading off. Because, Rogue One and Solo, A Star Wars Story came out between episodes, or between the first and second and third parts of these. So we got 5 Star Wars movies in 5 years, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they were I will say that of the 5, they were all of varying quality. Again, these are all AAA movies. Like, these are all very high, well-produced, high budget, well-produced movies. The issues with them are plot points. And then, the one thing that kind of, if I could go back in time and change a couple of things, I would say that they should have done the trilogy first and then done the side stories afterwards.
Yeah.
Or do the side stories first and then be like, hey, look, we did a couple of side stories that all kind of fit in different points, but now we're doing a new trilogy, and like kind of build up to that. Right.
Yeah.
I think sticking side stories between the other ones, like it was just Star Wars burnout, man. Like I don't typically really care much about Star Wars, and I was burned out and just tired of people talking about it all the time.
Yeah, and even for me, like I obviously the show knows, Andy, you know this, everyone I know knows this. I love Star Wars to a T, so I was giddy every single year when the new movie came out. I was like energy bouncing around. Hell, I was even energy this year when season 7 of Clone Wars came out, and with the Mandalorian. So it's like my Star Wars hype hasn't gone down. But what I will say is, though, I'm okay with sticking with the TV series for a while before we get more movies. I will say that.
Yeah, that's fair.
And one real quick thing before we close this out, or before we say our final thoughts, is the one thing we can't really forget that was really impactful with these 3 films was the loss of Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, and I can tell that, like, I had this thought when I was watching it in theaters, and then I definitely had it again. Like, there were definitely some parts of that movie that had to be rewritten kind of last minute because of her death.
Thankfully, she finished all of episode 8 beforehand.
Yeah.
So that was at least good, but it was episode 9 where they recycled old footage from both 7 and 8 of her.
Yeah.
And that's why we didn't get a whole lot of her.
Yeah. Because I had definitely heard the point that like 7 was Han's movie, 8 was Luke's movie, and 9 was going to be Leia's movie.
Yeah.
As much as they're all, the new kids movies as well. Like it was but we're going to highlight
wrapping up their stories too.
Right. And it was cool that Harrison Ford is willing to come back for his brief cameo in 9. But like, man, it would have been cooler if it was Leia.
It really would have been, but it's definitely very, very impactful. And when I was rewatching episode 9, I think I could list 5 moments off the top of my head right now that will always make me cry in Star Wars. The death of Duchess Satine in Clone Wars, the final moments of the Obi-Wan versus Anakin lightsaber duel, the death of Obi-Wan in episode 4, the final moments of Clone Wars, and I say that without spoiling it because those moments are very impactful. And then Chewbacca's reaction to Leia. My husband can attest to this. He walked in, saw that I was watching it, and I had tissues in front of me because I can't hold it myself together during that scene because it's like it's him crying not only over the loss of Leia, but crying over the loss of Carrie Fisher, and it's just like, God damn it.
Yeah, look at it from Chewbacca's point of view, right? Like he had just lost Han a year before, and then lost Luke right after that. And then like, okay, well, I still got Leia, and then Leia's gone. And it's like
now all he has is Lando.
Yeah, and Lando's in that movie. We didn't even talk about Lando coming back.
Yeah, no, Billy D. Williams came back in that movie, and he's freaking great.
Yeah.
Which, it's kind of, I will admit, though, I am kind of glad they put in Solo before episode 9, because we got that nice kind of, like, full circle moment of where the Falcon was Lando's, and then Han took it, and then Lando gets it back, but for a little more depressing reasons.
That's fair. I did have that thought, like, yeah, okay, hey, this is kind of cool that this thing ends up back with, its original owner.
Yes.
Again, right, I also think it would have worked just as well had Solo come out before episode 7, right?
Indeed.
So,
I
don't know. Overall, like, I remember walking out of episode 8 in the theater, and my roommate that I saw it with, or my friend that I saw it with, saying, I really liked it. And I was like, man, I really liked the part with the Jedi stuff. I really liked all the Rey and Kylo and Luke stuff. And seeing Yoda again was cool. But like, man, I just didn't care about the army stuff, the military stuff at all.
Interesting.
Because if I want to watch an army movie, I'll watch an army movie. I come to Star Wars for laser swords and space wizards.
Fair enough. I think.
And episode 9, like, there's just so much that happens in the last 35 minutes of that movie that, like, it's overwhelming.
Like, it's pausing the scene with all of the ships coming to face down the Final Order. Like, I've recognized 10% of those ships.
Yeah.
10%, and that's still a lot of ships to not recognize.
A lot of them in there, yeah.
Like, because there's old separatist cruise starships. I think there's the Ghost from Rebels. There's the Colossus from Resistance. There's the Falcon. There's X-wings. There's Wedge. There's all
like
these
D-wings
things
and stuff in there. Yeah.
There's just so much.
Yeah.
It's gonna take like a full breakdown of everything. And the other thing we didn't mention is when Rey reaches out into the Force and hears the voices of former Jedi, and we get Ahsoka in a live action movie. We get Anakin coming back, Qui-Gon coming back, Obi-Wan, both versions.
Yeah.
Both versions of Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, Ayla Secura, Luminara Unduli, Ki-Adi-Mundi, like
Kanan comes back. Kanan from Kanan. I don't know.
Kanan.
Yeah.
Kanan.
Like he's in there too.
He's in there too. Yeah.
I watched it with the subtitles on so that it actually like said who everyone was, and I was like, oh, because when you're watching it in theaters, right? It's just like, oh, here's a bunch of random voices, and I recognize Sam Jackson and Yoda, but everyone else like, it's just voices, okay. But when get it with the sub, and I know you're a super fan, so you know them.
Yeah. Well, I had to go back and actually do my search because in the theater they had them bouncing around the speakers.
Oh, okay.
They weren't coming out of like the same speakers. They were all coming out of different speakers at different times to kind of allude to the fact that they're coming from different points.
All around you. Yeah.
They're all around you. And so I caught as many of them as I could.
Mm-hmm.
I easily caught Anakin. I easily caught Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Mace Windu, Ahsoka. I nearly screamed over. I was like, Ahsoka. But I didn't catch Ayla or Luminara or a few of the other voices. I didn't even realize Kanan was one of the voices until someone said Kanan was in there. I was like, what?
Yeah. So like that's a really nice touch because if you're just a fan of the movies, like great. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't watched any of the other stuff, it's like, okay, but there's other Jedi in there. But then to find out like, no, they're all Jedi from the animated, the different various animated stuff, the other bits of Star Wars media where these characters have voices, like they got as many of them as they could. Like, okay, that's super cool. That's a really nice touch.
Yeah.
So
and again, that's still not everything. There's still so much to cover.
So much, yeah.
And
but just as a general overview, like, I don't think 8 and 9 delivered on the promise that 7 gave me.
Mm-hmm.
But rewatching them, I did definitely like them better than seeing them the first time I saw them in theaters.
Yeah. For me, it was very much a thing where I went in giddy and excited for every single one. And when I walked out changed almost. Like I walked out with like this sense of just like, I've learned more about this universe that I love and I worship and I have all the information on that's way too useless for anybody else. But it was very much an enlightening thing at the same time. I love these films.
Yeah.
I know there's flaws. I know there's critiques and I register them and I pay attention to them, but I still love them. And I still, and I will still watch them. I will watch them to the point where I have them completely memorized like I do with the prequels. I will do it.
Sure.
But the one thing that I think everyone kind of needs to take away from this is that even though we got to see it in theaters and we are dealing with the critiques and the reviews, we have to ask ourselves, how will the kids 10 years from now react to them?
Right.
Like, how did the kids react to the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy years and years later? They react to it without the judgment.
Yeah, and one of the things about being friends with you over the last couple of years is like, I never hated the prequels as much as everyone else, but I also don't like them as much as some other people, right?
Yeah.
But I do have a new appreciation for them because you're the kid that grew up with them. Like you're the kid that grew up with like, no, Star Wars is all of Star Wars. It's not just these 3 movies.
Yeah.
And a holiday special maybe.
We don't talk about that. That's the one where I'll even be like, no.
Yeah, but that Boba Fett cartoon's pretty cool, and I hate Boba Fett, so
that cartoon is pretty dope though. So all right, fair enough.
Yeah. All right, we are over time, so I'm gonna call it.
All right,
guys. Well, hey, what do you think about Star Wars? What do you think about the sequel Star Wars movies? Let us know on social media. Let us know on Atomic Monsoon on Twitter and Facebook, and Atomic_Monsoon on Instagram. Or email us, atomicmonsoon@gmail.com, and let us know what you liked about the Star Wars sequels. And if you tell us some cool stuff, we'll read it on air.
Mm-hmm. So thank you guys for coming along with us on this journey. And I would say the signature line involving the Force, but that's actually copyright. So
good to know.
Yeah, that's actually a copyright phrase. But
yeah. Okay, so we'll see you a long time from now in a galaxy far away.
Bye.